Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. The garden is looking lovely. It's the middle of April, but we are expecting a frost tonight, so I have to work to water and then cover everything. Join me today as I set to work because I have a lot of plants to protect. By my count, I have 10 different crops. Some of them are in a shared bed, but let me show you those now. And then, like I told you, we have to water and work to cover everything. I'm going to be using buckets and planters, and I do have a few hoops, but I might even have to get a little creative because we have so many things that are currently in the garden, which is a wonderful thing. But in Central Virginia, it means we have to be able to protect them as well. So first up though on the garden tour are the potatoes. We have gone just this morning and put one planter around a portion of them, but I have a great big long line, and I'm so close you can't even see them. But I have a great big long line of seed potatoes the entire width of my garden. I think I have about 28 plants in total that need to be covered because the frost is really hard on them. A few of these had a very small little nip a few weeks ago. They're doing well, but a big hard frost tonight could really set them back. So this is probably one of the more tender crops that we currently have in the garden. Some of the other crops that we currently have in the early spring garden include bok choy, we have kale, we have collards, we have broccoli, we have cabbage, and then we have our sugar snaps, which are almost a foot tall. So we'll want to work to protect all of these. I do want to take a quick minute and talk about the shallots and the leeks. When I planted them several weeks ago, they looked phenomenal. They were so happy. We started them from seed in early February. They were thriving. They had good root structures. And so I put them in the ground thinking that they were really ready. Well, even though we had been working to harden them on the porch for what felt like weeks, when they went into the ground, the shallots pretty quickly fizzled out. And I mean, I think I have 2, maybe 3 shallots that have survived. I originally planted over 30 shallots. Now, that's not a very good ratio there. The leeks, however, are in this one single row along the far side, and most of them have survived. They're still green. They just haven't taken off yet. So again, I'm hoping once this cold snap is finished and passed us by, I'm hoping to really see those leeks take off. But I am happy that these shallots that we've just planted within the last week seem to be doing better. But again, this cold tonight, I'm a little worried about these guys because they've proven to be a little more finicky than I thought. Wish us luck. The 10th crop I have here in the early garden is our lettuce. I planted about 18 plants. 2 have so far not made it. You know, in the garden, not all of your transplants are going to make it, and that's to be expected. But I have to protect everything because if these crops get nipped now, they can either be killed or they can be really, really stunted. So again, I'm going to water now and then work to find all of my frost blankets, my buckets, my everything else. You may have heard my mini mare, Sweetheart, here calling. We've done some moving around of some of the horses on the farm this morning, and she's still a little unsure. These 2 little boys that are running up into the paddock now, they've just been reunited, so they're having a good time palling around. Sweetheart's calling for them because she wants to keep tabs on them. And then I even heard one of my horses in the front kind of getting in on the action. So everyone's a little excited today on the farm, but it's a beautiful spring day. And like I told you, I have a lot to do here in the garden. Today, it's not too hot, so I'm going to use a bucket and just a cup and give everything just a little dousing of water. On really hot days, we try to give a more thorough watering, a real drenching. But I don't think it's necessary today. We were out of town this past weekend. We had a really fantastic time camping at False Cape State Park. If you've not been there, check it out. Check out our video. It was super cool. So the plants here didn't get water over the weekend. We were hoping for some rain yesterday, and when we got home, the ground was still bone dry. So I'm gonna water everything again by hand with a cup and then get to covering. Generally speaking, watering garden plants by hand is my preferred method. On occasion, I'll bring the hose out, but I still most often will go this route. I've also heard that watering your plants, before a frost can be beneficial. And I would imagine that after we cover everything with a little bit of warmth that is still in the air today, it will help to create almost a warm, moist greenhouse type environment. So hopefully that will help everything fare even better this evening. The crops that do not have planters need to be covered by buckets and tubs, and so that's what I've done first. I've rounded up as many as I possibly could, and I have covered them to keep them protected from the frost. It's a little bit like Where's Waldo, except where's Shrimp? Luckily, he's outside the planter under the cloth. I was worried that he had jumped inside as I was working to cover my potatoes. But I need to secure the cloth now. I've got a few clips and I'm gonna put a few boards on top because I do want to try to keep my kitty cats out. I mean, cats, they're so smart. He knows where the warm spots are. Today's not a cold day, but there is already significant warmth being generated within the planter underneath the green cloth. So these cloths will definitely do the trick tonight. Let's talk about warmth. It's 60, maybe 64 degrees out here. It feels quite warm. So I wouldn't want to keep my crops covered if it was much warmer. I think it's also 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. So pretty soon the day's high will be over and temperatures will start to drop. So I do think all of my crops will be fine covered up by buckets and cloths at this point in the day. But if it was much warmer, I would definitely want to pull everything off until closer to nightfall because I wouldn't want to be cooking my little plants underneath. Another precaution I take with these cloths, using the cloth and the planter combo, is putting boards on top. My cats jump on top of the green cloths and sometimes that will collapse, and I feel having the boards here just helps to give a little more stability. Should the clips pop around the edges, the board is also there to help hold the cloth. So, I do think it helps, but sometimes things are inevitable and cats do get in there and cloths do fall down and plants do get trampled, but I am trying my best to protect what's underneath that cloth. Here's a look at that cloth clip board combo. If I am able to find a large enough frost cloth, I should have 2 really big ones. I will span it from the far side of the green planter all the way over to the far side of the silver planter. That would then give Shrimp, my little cat, a really nice place to lay. He does love to go under those frost blankets at night. So again, if I can do that and reasonably secure it on the planters, then I will. Kind of a killing 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess. If he's happy and has a warm place, maybe he won't try so hard to get underneath the cloths inside with the plants. My darker green blankets here should be my larger one, so I'm going to start with that first. The bright green, I'm pretty sure, is only wide enough to be a single hoop cover. No sooner had I put the blankets down than he came right over here. He is just such a silly guy. He's my little garden helper. A couple of summers ago, I tried planting crops in these green and silver planters, and I didn't have any success. I think part of it was the soil I used, and it just wasn't holding moisture. Nothing really grew. So I am not a big fan of planting crops truly within planters, but I love them for doing just what I'm doing here, which is covering crops. I will use the planters and I will stretch netting across them in the summertime to keep the groundhogs out. I will cover them with frost blankets like I am now to protect crops from, getting nipped. So again, I love planters. I just don't really use them the way most people perhaps would have intended them to be used, but maybe you've had more luck than I have. My preference though are the narrower beds. I have 2 of these big silver ones, and they're great for larger crops like green beans. I used them last year for multiple different series. They're a little harder to weed because they are so broad and deep. You almost have to work around the edges. You can't just, reach across them. Whereas the green one, I can pretty easily stand on one side and weed all the way across it. So again, it just all depends on your preference and what you're using them for. I don't use them as raised beds as I think they were originally intended, like I told you, but they're still super handy and I do love having them here in the garden. I also really love these really cheap, really small little alligator type clips. They're my favorite thing to attach my cloths as well as my netting to my planters. So they don't look great, a little worse for the wear, but they're still getting the job done. But now back to the task at hand, covering our crops with our cloths. So my leeks, shallots, and lettuce are now covered. I was able to use that one large cloth, which was fantastic. I did leave shrimp, that little cavity in the middle, so he can duck under there tonight. And the last thing I need to cover now are my 3 hoops over here. I believe it's my collard plants, my bok choy, and kale. So I have 2 blankets here, one oversized that will cover 2 of my hoops together, and then one narrow. So let's go do that and then we'll be finished for the day. The only trouble is I do have to disturb my little kitty cat shrimp who is nestled deep down in the middle of these frost blankets.
Now, he is a very smart kitty cat, so no sooner had I moved the other blankets than he came right over here and made himself at home.
Here is my single narrow frost cloth. It fits really well over one of the hoops, and I have gathered it here on the end with a hair tie, and I'll show you all it needs now are 2 little clips on the right and left, and it's good to go. Because my hoops are made out of this slightly thicker plastic, I am using a bigger alligator clip to hold my cloth to that. So one side is in place. I now have my second side here in place. I'll do the same on the other end. And again, this is good and secure for tonight. My final 2 crops I will cover with another oversized blanket, and then I'm finished. Now, I'm not gonna lie, covering your crops like this is a lot of work. And some people might have things a little more streamlined than I do, but it's still worth it because you would hate to lose these early spring crops just for lack of covering them. So I'm happy to take the time and do it. And every time I do so, I hope that this might be the last frost cover. The last couple of weeks have been really nice and warm, but you just never know. It's still mid-April and we could really get frost like this until the 1st of May. But it's not going to be a super hard frost, just a light frost, so that's not too bad. Another thing I've done is I have kept my boards and timbers in place so that I can lay them on top of my blankets when I need them. I didn't have to go searching for these. They were already right here waiting to be used again. Thank you so much for joining me today as I work to water and cover all of my early spring crops. I have 10 crops currently here in the garden, 11 if you count the asparagus. And so far, everything has been covered. You do see the blanket is billowing a little, but that is just covering my kale and my bok choy, which I think will be just fine. If it was going to be even colder, like a really, really hard freeze, I would have done a little more to have secured that with extra clips. But for tonight, we're just looking at, they're saying 32, so here on the farm, we could see 29, 30. Nothing super, super cold, but it's still cold enough to nip and do a little damage, which is why we've covered and protected everything. Check back soon. I'll keep you posted on how everything does, and we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.